Hey guys, welcome to I guess you call this a special Insanity Check episode. This is something I talked to. We couldn't get my boy Justin from 3/5 Podcast on last week. We had some things going on, and we're gonna have him on. I don't think we didn't pick a date yet for you in 2018 yet, have we?
Sometime in January. It'll happen in January.
Yeah, sometime in January. We're gonna do that, but I wanted to bring him on for this special quick episode because we were supposed to talk about before when we were going to have him on for the Insanity Check. We were going to talk to him about the net neutrality vote coming up with the FCC, and so what we decided to do instead was go ahead and put a little special episode together where I could have Justin come on and kind of like educate folks about what's the deal with net neutrality. 'Cause I think there's still a lot of, I don't know if at this point there's still a lot of confusion because I think there's been a really good education campaign going on with it. But also, and I think you said this, and I don't know if you said it on purpose or was it like a slip, but you said what to do when the vote passes because like the vote's going to pass. It's like the FCC is going to vote.
Barring some, I'm going to knock on wood, but like barring something catastrophic happening to the FCC building or network infrastructure, the vote's going to pass because it's three Republicans and an FCC chairman desperate for a win, for a Republican president desperate for something that he can say, look, I legislated, I did a thing. So it's going to pass. But there's still things that you guys could do to make this a very painful process for the FCC to have this vote actually pass. But first, like I said, let's talk a little bit about what net neutrality is. Net neutrality is essentially the guiding principle of the internet. It's a phrase coined by technology policy scholar Tim Wu that essentially says the internet shall be treated as a free resource, right? The internet shall not be, I don't want to use regulated because that's what he uses in his official definition, but that's kind of what it means, right? It allows for ISPs to not throttle connections, to not favor certain content, to just give you the internet as is, no restrictions, right? The best description I have for what net neutrality is, it treats the internet as a utility. Utility companies can't charge you based on how much electricity you want to use, right? Like if you want to use electricity for powering certain things, they're not going to charge you and say, okay, cool, you're using your electricity to power your servers. We're going to charge you X amount. Using electricity for your TV, well, to power your TVs, you got to charge this much. Oh, using your electricity for your PlayStation, got to charge you this much. Nope, you're just charged for what you use. That is essentially net neutrality. You are charged for the internet that you use. So when it repeals, worst case scenario, you have an internet service provider like Comcast that says, hey, if you want to access any content that isn't NBC affiliated, we're going to charge you extra for that because Comcast owns NBC. Or Verizon says, hey, if you want to access any Google tools, we're going to charge you extra, or block them outright because we own Yahoo.
And if you think, just for real quick, if you think these companies aren't that petty, remember, I keep forgetting, I forgot about this. You can't get the an Apple TV on Amazon. You can't get, like I remember for the longest time, if you had an Android device, you could not get the Amazon video app. You could not, there was no Amazon video app because, they wanted for Android, Amazon was like, well, we're having like, what was it, the Kindle? It was some other device they had. They had their own little tablet. So what they wanted you to buy their tablet to use their native video app. So I'm just saying to say, like, these companies are petty enough to do this. If they can nickel and dime you, they will.
Well, they've also done this in the past, right? In 2005, Madison River Communications was blocking voice over IP services. The FCC, Bush's FCC at that, had to step in and say, no, you guys can't do that, and fine them about $10,000. 2005, Comcast was denying access to P2P from peer-to-peer services without notifying its customers. That goes against net neutrality principles. 2007 to 2009, AT&T was having Skype and other voice-over IP services blocked because they didn't like the competition for their cell phones. 2011, Metro PCS tried to block all streaming content except YouTube. And they actually sued the FCC over doing that, and it blew up in their faces. Mm-hmm. 2011 to 2013, AT&T, Sprint, Verizon were all blocking access to Google Wallet because it competed with their own wallet applications. 2012, Verizon was demanding that Google block tethering apps on Android because it let owners avoid the $20 tethering fee that was native to Verizon network plans. 2012, AT&T tried to block access to FaceTime unless customers paid extra for it. 2013, Verizon, in their case against net neutrality, because this is when Obama, you guys really don't understand that Obama was the greatest president of all time. When he took over, he told the FCC, make net neutrality a priority. Once Tom Wheeler, Mignon Clyburn, and God, I keep forgetting the third commissioner because she's not there anymore. But his FCC made it a priority to push net neutrality and to make it the law of the land. Verizon actually sued over this, saying, quote, the only thing stopping us from favoring certain content providers over one another for competition's sake is net neutrality. Verizon admitting we would do the very thing that net neutrality prevents against if this was not the law of the land. They ended up losing that 2015. The internet is classified as a utility under Title II, under the FCC's Title II, and net neutrality is the law of the land. Once again, thank you, Obama. You're welcome. So this isn't just a doomsday hypothetical scenario. This is a track record that these companies have done for the last 10 years, at least, right? So what happens next, right? So the vote is on December 14th. It's going to happen at about 11, whatever time they all convene. Whatever, it's going to happen December 14th, right? The three Republican commissioners, Ajit Pai and his two others.
Can I just say, I hate his face. Every time I see him, I hate his face. It just, he has a very punchable face. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm sorry.
He looks like every smarmy lawyer stereotype. Like that.
Every single one of them.
A smarmy lawyer. And he's actually a former lawyer of Verizon.
Huh. Go figure, right?
Yeah. So hold on. Before I get to that, I actually saw this on the internet today. They're trying to make the case that this is Obama's fault because Obama appointed Ajit Pai in 2012. This is sort of how the makeup of the FCC works. There are 5 commissioners. It is a bipartisan commission. There can be no more than 3 members of a certain political party on at any given time. So typically what happens, Democratic presidents, 3 Democrats, 2 Republicans, Republican presidents, 3 Republicans, 2 Democrats. Ajit Pai was one of the Republicans that was appointed after his predecessor left. So Obama went down to Mitch McConnell and said, okay, who do you want me to bring up to the FCC? Because in Obama's mind, doesn't matter, I have the majority anyways. McConnell calls up Ajit Pai, he goes in there. So now the narrative is Obama appointed Ajit Pai, he wanted to destroy net neutrality. This is an actual thing being said by the Sanders wing of the internet. And this is just amazing.
They're not very smart, though.
I mean, they're not. But again, it's just amazing to see them try to paint this as, see, it's a both parties thing. And we Democratic Socialists have to band together. And I'm like, no, because Obama's FCC gave you net neutrality, you ungrateful bastards. Anyways, so the vote's going to happen. The vote's going to pass. What happens next, right? Chaos doesn't happen immediately. I would assume within the next 7 days, there's going to be a formal challenge or a formal review petition to a court to review if the FCC can do this thing. So you're basically going to get into a long, protracted legal battle where it's going to go to a circuit court, then it's going to go to a federal court, and it's going to get appealed all the way up to the Supreme Court.
Oh wait, we have a great Supreme Court. Oh wait.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I sure hope that we didn't have a serial sexual assaulter and possibly serial rapist nominate someone to the Supreme Court. Oh wait, we did. So it looks bad, right? Like it looks very bad. If this gets appealed all the way up to the Supreme Court, you would imagine that this thing splits down party lines, and you're going to have to, terrifying thought, you're going to depend on John Roberts to swing back to have the internet classified as a utility. Not looking good, right? So what can we do? What can you guys do to prevent this, or at least make this as painful as possible for the people involved? So in the link, or in the show notes, there's going to be a link. The FCC has a public commenting system where you can comment on current proceedings happening for different motions, different filings, different votes. You can leave a comment on this vote. You can actually leave comment. Technically, comments were supposed to be due back in November, but you can still leave a comment. You can still have your voice heard, and you can still let your displeasure with this vote be known. So we'll leave a link on how to do that in there, as long as instructions from your former FCC chairman, Obama appointee, on what makes a good FCC comment, right? So we'll do that. We'll leave that there. You can leave those comments. I know people are saying call your congressman. That's kind of effective, but not really, right? Congress really can't pressure Pi the way his own internal systems can. So you leave a comment hit where we've described in the link in your show notes. That's the best way for you to fight back at this point. And even beyond this point, so even once the vote passes, you can continue to leave comments there. It will be a public record. It will be a long-standing record of the public's general disapproval of this vote. So let's talk a little bit about the commenting, because that's come up in the news in some circles. When this vote was announced back in July, Chairman Pai said that he would open it up to commenting from the public. He wanted to hear the public's response. Lately, a New York Attorney General has demanded that Ajit Pai turn over his comment logs and records to prove that the 1.3 million comments supporting his vote and supporting his repeal were not fake and were not astroturfed, and the damning offense, were not created using stolen identities. That's the catch here, right? Like the stolen identity astroturfing. Independent investigators, there's a great post on Medium. I can send Chris the link so you guys can read about how they actually did the deep dive into the research. But they determined that that 1.3 million were actually created by mail merge bots and spam. They were crafted to appear to be real comments, but they're essentially created by the program equivalent of a Mad Libs creator. So they flooded this comment system with stolen identities, allegedly, and that's where all this quote-unquote support for the repeal of net neutrality came from. Once you get rid of all of those comments and you have your pure comments, about 800,000, 99% of the remaining support net neutrality, support Title II, and support having a free internet. So that's why leaving comments on the FCC system is really important. We want to get as many real voices on there as possible, because this is a big deal. A lot of indie content creators, your podcasters and your Black podcasters specifically, we depend on net neutrality and we depend on the internet as is to get our content out. If this repeal happens and is eventually upheld by the Supreme Court, that fundamentally changes how we will deliver our content to you. Who's to say that your internet service provider won't allow you to reach our content unless we pay them or you pay them? We already saw what happened with Patreon, where they decided to push the credit card fees that they were incurring off on the patrons themselves instead of the creators. So who's to say something like that can't happen to us?
Right, and then they try to frame it as, well, we were doing it for you. That's the lie. We were doing it to help you. No, you really weren't.
No, it's insidious on a couple of levels. They're pushing the charge off to you so that, one, they don't have to pay it, but two, Patreon is trying to get rid of all of these small content creators, right? Like your podcast that we're latching on to Patreon as a subscription service, your indie artists that were using Patreon to sort of to get their content out. They only wanted the quote unquote big fish. They wanted to call all of the small and indie. Mm-hmm. That's the sort of thing that we're up against with this net neutrality repeal. So that's why it's so important that we make our voices heard, and that's why it's so important that we fight back. It looks hopeless. It seems hopeless. The odds are not in our favor. But there's a chance. And a lot of our livelihoods depend on this chance. Not just take this, let's talk about this outside of us as content creators. How you use the internet will fundamentally change without net neutrality. Who's to say that Comcast won't block any news that's not NBC affiliated? Or who's to say Verizon will say, you guys can't go to Al Jazeera anymore. You guys can't consume New York Times anymore online. You can only go to Yahoo supported news. No, Yahoo has their own news functionality. So you can only go to Yahoo News. That's all you get. Right? That fundamentally changes how we consume news. That fundamentally changes how reporting is done. Take it a step further, it fundamentally changes how we communicate. Who's to say that an ISP won't say, cool, you want to get on Twitter? Extra $10.99. You want to get on Facebook? Extra $11.99.
Well, if you think about it, if you've ever been on an airplane with internet, it's kind of how they work there, right? It's like, oh, you want the basic? We'll give you for free. But if you want to, you want video, you want high speed internet. Oh, well, you got to pay for the premium price now. Now you have to pay for that. And I've seen, what was it, Portugal? Somebody else that has this, and
Yes.
they actually had the plans out there, which is just, yeah, you don't want that, guys. You don't want this.
And that's what we're going to. This is what the repeal of net neutrality will look like. You will end up paying more for your internet. You the user will end up incurring more of a cost to use something that a lot of us depend on daily for survival. Right? Like Facebook for a lot of us isn't just an escape. We're making connections. We're networking. We're conducting business. Twitter isn't just, a cool spot to find memes and make jokes. People are conducting business. People are living and surviving through the internet. People are finding jobs through the internet. Who's to say that Verizon will say, cool, you want access to Monster.com, ZipRecruiter, anything that you use to find employment, got to pay extra for that. I'm unemployed. How can I afford that extra charge? That's why it's important. That's why, one, this net neutrality thing is so important. On another layer, that's why institutions like libraries are so important, because a lot of underprivileged people use libraries for their internet access. But without net neutrality, what's a library going to do? Mm-hmm. We're already cutting the budget to education, right? So now how are they going to afford to keep up with all these costs? And if you're listening to this and you're saying, wow, that sounds extreme. Wow, that can't happen. It's been happening for the last 10 years. It's just that the FCC has been there to stop it at every turn. Now we just have someone at the FCC who is completely vested in turning this control back over to the corporations. And that is not a good look.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, you've seen this kind of stuff before, because it was the whole thing with Netflix. Like, I remember when now Netflix is like hot shit for everybody. But I remember when the content, who was it? Was it Verizon that had the beef with Netflix at one point? I think it was Verizon.
I want to say it was Verizon. I really want to say it was Verizon.
I think it was Verizon. And they had the beef with Netflix. So they were throttling it. That was a big argument with last time we had net neutrality, because Netflix was throttling. Verizon was throttling, and they swore it out. It was like, well, it's not us. And Netflix came out with all the fucking facts and receipts and was like, no, it's not us. Like,
no. So it was definitely Verizon and Netflix. And when they took them to court, Netflix basically pulled out a binder full of logs saying, it's y'all, and we've known it's been y'all for a while.
Right.
So what are y'all going to do about it?
And that's the other thing, too. It's like, when these companies do it, you'll just know you got slower. They won't make an announcement because they feel like, and they'll blame the other content. They'll blame where you're getting the content from, and it's never that. It's them. And they were doing it in secret. Like, I remember this because this was like the last big time we were having, probably right before Obama gave us net neutrality. But it was a big thing was going on, and it was a big debate because Verizon and Netflix were going back and forth. And at one point, people were getting mad at Netflix. Netflix was like, no, stop getting mad at us. It ain't us. We're not doing it. And
I remember that because people were so certain. They're like, oh, it's Netflix because Netflix is charging us. I'm like, nah, it's Verizon. Verizon is doing that because Netflix is competing with what Verizon wants to do.
Right.
So they're throttling that connection. That's the other layer of this that I haven't really talked about. So I guess I can talk about it now. You pay for different speeds of internet based on the type of connection you have, right? So like if you have a fiber connection, you're guaranteed up to a certain speed, right? I'm blanking on the numbers right now, but with net neutrality gone, it doesn't matter what your connection is. Mm-hmm. The ISP now determines what speed you're allowed to have. Oh, you didn't pay for premium? Cool, we'll give you slow internet and we'll throttle your connection from time to time. You want to get in this HOV lane though, this fast lane? Yeah, you got to cough up extra for that. And here's the trick they're going to try to play on you guys. They're going to say it's no different than saying, oh, we're giving you 500 megabit versus 1 gigabit. Not so. That's based on the type of connection they're wiring into your house. Now it doesn't matter the connection they wire in. they're determining how fast you go. Like if you have fiber, you expect at least X speed. Mm-hmm. Now, even if you have fiber, they can give you X minus 5 because they feel like it.
And let's also be clear about, I thought they were going to take another direction too. Got to remember, some of these ISPs, they're kind of double dipping because they're also content providers themselves. And so what you're seeing them doing is they're doing this to choke off what they see as their competition. So if you're Verizon, you don't want people going to Netflix because that's people going to Netflix instead of going to you. There's the whole thing with people cutting cords, right? The whole cord cutting thing where it's like, I don't need cable anymore. Why do I need cable? I can get all this stuff and get everything I need through my internet connection. So people are turning, and that's something. So you're already seeing them doing this because this is why now, if you just try to get internet with no cable, it's almost more expensive than getting the package because they know what the trend is, and they still want to get their cut.
Right. So like we brought up at the beginning, Comcast owns NBC. So when this repeal goes through, Comcast is going to give NBC preferential treatment to the detriment of all other content. Mm-hmm. Right? So this is not a good thing. And I didn't want to do this, but I feel it in my spirit, so I have to now. For all of you that said Hillary was just as bad as Donald Trump, Hillary would not have repealed net neutrality and fundamentally broken the internet as you see it today. She wouldn't have.
Facts.
Like this is what's on the line here. But
yeah, sorry, but no, the screensaver came on, but no, you're right. You're absolutely right. It's elections matter. Like, this stuff matters. I don't think people understand. I think a lot of people are only looking at the here and now, and I think the full election, because, God, this one more thing is just going to piss me off, because I know how this is going to end up. But going forward, I'm hoping people realize how important this stuff is. And that it's bigger than just, that it's bigger than just your personal like or dislike for a particular politician. Like it's way bigger than that. It's unfortunate. I understand that people don't want to think that, but it just is. So, yeah.
I'm trying to be very careful with how I say this. Not to say that your particular pet issue doesn't matter, right? And I guess this is just my experience being black in America. I know I'm never going to get everything I want out of a president. So at a bare minimum, my requirements are, can you keep the lights on? Can you not do things like repeal the Voting Rights Act? Can you not do things like appoint someone as Attorney General who made their career by terrorizing black people in Alabama for decades and instituting voter suppression laws that, are likely going to lead to Roy Moore being elected, right? Like, yes, the military-industrial complex and the outreach of American imperialism are big deals, but I guess that's just where I am as a black man or black person in America. I don't see that stopping. So I'm not gonna not vote for somebody just because, the American machine keeps going.
Well, not only just that, but it's like, it's not that it's not going to stop. This isn't the way to stop it. By setting everything back even further is just making it harder. Like, this mysterious revolution people think is coming because of this, it's not. It's not coming. So we need to deal in the here and now, and make sure that we're not, completely setting everything back. And I think that's the thing that is getting so many people. It's like they think that they're selling out if they deal with what's in front of them, and it's like, no, that's survival. Sometimes you vote for survival.
And that is the black experience. We vote for survival. right? Like a lot of people quote Malcolm X's ballot or the bullet. Unless you're talking about armed insurrection, you're voting for your survival. It is what it is. Like a vote for Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders or whoever the Democratic nominee is. For black people, that's a vote for survival, right? Like not Doug Jones, who just won in Virginia, Ralphie. He flirted with white supremacists during his election, right? Like he flirted with that racist white moderate to win. Black people didn't like it, but black people also understood, shit, he's better than Ed Gillespie. So we took it. We took that L. Doug Jones also flirting with racism in his campaign and his advertising. Black people are still probably going to support Doug Jones because he doesn't believe that America was at its best during slavery.
Oh shit, we're Doug Jones might not be out of it yet. Might be making a comeback. I'm not trying to hope, yo. Let me stop. I'm not trying to hope, man. I'm hoping by the time you guys hear this that we are completely wrong. Like, here's the thing. Ever since the election of Donald Trump, I always bet low. I bet on the worst of America. And so I don't get my hopes
back to default.
Right, I go back to the default for America. I'm no longer hoping change. I'm just hoping we don't die tomorrow. So, but like I said, this is all serious. I mean, there are going to be some real consequences for a lot of things, and net neutrality is just the first of many things that's going to come. And I think you're right. Like we need to have these conversations, and we need to understand what we can do to fight back. Like, and what's going to happen, like I said, if this happens, and that because the vote's going to go the way the vote goes, and that can't be the end of the fight. Because and the good thing about this one is, and this is one of those weird things where, in some respect, capitalism a little bit it's gonna be interesting to see capitalism fight itself, because there are some big names, obviously, like ISPs that are for this, but a lot of the tech companies are against this.
So that, like you said, capitalism eating itself. A lot of if they're smart, your Facebooks, your Twitters, your Instagrams, your Snapchats, your smaller ISPs, and your tech conglomerates are going to fight this tooth and nail, because one of two things is going to happen. The extra charges are either going to get pushed off to them or their user community, and they're going to have to hear it from their user community. So they're going to fight this like, nah, man, you fucking up our money now. So once the vote happens, you're probably going to see 2 or 3 years of legal battles before the actual law settles. Mm-hmm. What you want to happen, without getting too in the weeds, you want this to end up in, the 11th District Court? Or DC's 11th District? It's the same district that basically upheld all the previous net neutrality hearings and basically said, yes, the FCC has the authority to classify the internet as a utility under Title II. Like, that's what you want. Because if that happens, now you have a judge saying, boom, they can do this, and that makes it harder for appeals. That makes it harder for judges up the chain to be like, well, this circuit that has dealt with this thing for the last decade, maybe they know what they're talking about. So there's a little bit of hope there, but it's a giant lottery on where this actually gets, where the hearings for this will actually happen. Right. But again, there's still a chance. Leave comments on the FCC site. Tell a friend to leave a comment on the FCC site. The fight isn't over. I mean, we have to fight this, right? Like, you listening to this podcast as a result of net neutrality. Who's to say that once this passes, your ISP maybe they don't have a good relationship with Apple or whoever you're using to listen to this podcast, and they just block it outright?
Yeah, no. We got to do it the hard way now. We could have done this the easy way.
Y'all didn't want to do it the easy way.
We could have done it the easy way.
It was so easy to do this too.
We got to do it the hard way now.
This would not even be a debate if Donald Trump wasn't president. Because if Donald Trump wasn't president, your FCC chairman would probably be Mignon Clyburn, who I think she would be the first black woman to chair the FCC. Mm-hmm. No, yeah, she would be the first black woman to chair the FCC, because we've only had 2 black men chair it. But yeah, nope. y'all were hard headed, so now we got to do this the hard way.
We either do the easy way, we do the hard way. We're doing the hard way, folks. So, but yeah, gotta fight because, like I said, I mean, and it again, not just for us as podcasts, but everything. I mean, everything we do, the way we consume everything these days is through the internet. And like, I'll give you this. This is the last thing. I guess you got anything else you want to say for this other than some of the links?
Oh, no. I'll make sure all the links are included in the show notes. But unless you really want to get into the weeds about this, but yeah, I think we covered all the high level stuff.
Yeah, the thing I was going to say is it kind of reminds me of what's going on right now in Virginia, because I work in Virginia right now. Kind of reminds me of what's going on in Virginia right now with their tolls. They just turned I-66 in Virginia into a toll road. It's a variable toll road. And basically what it is the tolls go up and down depending on the traffic. And they say they want to keep it at a steady 55%. 55 miles per hour is the average they want the speed to go there. So they raise and lower the tolls on that road. And the first 2 days it opened, I want to say at one point at 8 o'clock in the morning, it got as high as $40. And I think you're going no further than 8 miles. $40 for 8 miles. And that's not the only variable toll road that's in Virginia. It's the worst, but it's not the only one. And the problem with this is again, we have one in Maryland, the ICC. It's not that bad because the traffic's not heavy. It doesn't get over like $4. The thing about what they do in Virginia is, one, the toll road only happens during rush hour. And anybody who drives around there during that rush hour knows there is no getting around anywhere during that rush hour. Like, that rush hour is trapped. So all they're doing right now is nickel and diming you. They're basically charging you for the road that you technically have already been charged with because you're paying your taxes. They're now double charging you, and you have to pay it because you're not going to not drive on that road. You're not going to take the longer way or sit in the longer traffic. You're gonna, like, there were a couple times I took the 95 one because it's like it was either that or sit in traffic for 2 hours. So I paid the $20, and that's what's gonna happen with the internet. They know that you're not gonna give. Like, there's not gonna be this thing where they do this and everybody goes, "Well, I guess there's gonna be no more internet." No, you're going to pay the price because we've gotten too far with technology. You're not gonna give it up. So now you're gonna have to pay. And if you can't, you've now created a caste system and the privileged and the non-privileged. It's ridiculous. And so, yeah, no, this we have to stop this as much as we can. You know, stand in the way of it because it's just too much. It's just too much. So,
I guess you bringing up the I-66 variable toll. They could literally do that with the internet now. They could say, hey, hot times are between 12 and 2 p.m.
Yes.
You're using the internet between them. We're charging you extra.
Yes. Like, I immediately think of that because that's exactly here. The thing that makes the I-66 toll so bad is they have it set at rush hour, and they know that is the heaviest time. And so the alarms are going, we don't know. And they said that they did the same thing to the Virginia tax, but they were like, well, we think that the average price will be about $8, but they don't set a limit on how high it can go. And so those 2 days, I think it's calmed down now, but those 2 days they were getting people for $40 a pop, $40 a car on that road.
Yeah, and they could easily do that with the internet because I don't think we have an appreciation for how ingrained the internet is into our daily lives and how much we use the internet for a lot of what we do. So those of us that can, we are going to pay the price. And it is, like you said, it's going to create a caste system. Like, Twitter is going to be, I can't believe Twitter is free. Not anymore.
Yep.
Right. And now it's going to fundamentally change the narrative you see on Twitter. And a lot of this reporting that's done using social media, like imagine what would have happened during Ferguson if everyone on the ground did not have access to Twitter. The state could have just pushed out whatever.
I'm sorry. There's one last thing that came out this week, and it was also that they what is it? There's something about how they're going to be sharing information with the DOJ or something like that on. Oh, something else that came out this week that kind of goes even further than that, where it's basically like them more spying. The FCC allowing them to spy more, easier to spy on internet traffic, and they're gonna. I know what they're gonna do. They're gonna put it on the guise of like like child pornography and things like that. But that's not what it's gonna be used for. Yeah, it's not good, folks. It's not good. Not good.
And that's why we have to fight this any way we can.
Yes. So, all right, Justin. Thank you very much. Can you again? We're gonna have the stuff in the show notes, but can you tell folks? I think are you gonna write an article as well, or is that gonna be just the show notes for us?
It will be in the show notes, and there will also be something going up around noon tomorrow or Wednesday on the 3/5 site talking about what you guys can do.
Okay, cool. So we will get that out there, and I will get this out tomorrow on the Insanity Check. So if you're listening to this, you're probably hearing it on Wednesday on the Insanity Check feed, and it'll probably go everywhere on Thursday, the day of the vote, so that we can know. Because, again, this is going to pass, so it's also about getting you guys out there to fight going forward. So, well, Justin, thank you very much for joining me on this one, and, yeah, we'll have you on again in a real Insanity Check on again in January 2018. So.
Yeah, man.
All right,
Until then.
Thank you guys very much. Peace.